spoke in more detail about the situation in India, I come down to telling you about what we are trying to do at the ground level in terms of demonstrating a farming system approach to address the problem of undernutrition. And it has been highlighted by both Professor Swaminathan and Rukmini, the huge problem of the huge population that is undernourished in our country, in the South Asian region as a whole, in fact. And this research program on leveraging agriculture for nutrition in South Asia that the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation is coordinating addresses the core research question as to how South Asian agriculture and related food policies, interventions, how should they be designed and implemented to impact on nutrition. So how do we leverage agriculture essentially to impact on nutrition? The backdrop being this problem of undernutrition and a large part of the population dependent on agriculture and allied activities. And again, elaborating a little more, Rukmini spoke about the three planks of food availability, access, and absorption. So in terms of agriculture linking to nutrition, it is through this enough production being there, the access part of it being there, farmers having the our population having the purchasing power to access the food, and the issues of women's care and time for home care, for using the income for decision making, all of which will determine how the food that we eat gets converted to the desired nutrition outcomes. And that's a lot of research based across this region has come up with evidence on these pathways that have been mapped. And underlying all this is the issue of wash, which was also highlighted by Rukmini as being very important for food absorption in terms of our food intake getting converted into the desired nutrition outcomes. The concept of farming system for nutrition has already been elucidated, and it was conceived by Professor M.S. Swaminathan, and we are working on demonstrating this in 2 locations in India. And it's a design essentially that mainstreams nutritional criteria in the selection of the components of the farming system based on the locally available natural resources, the agroclimatic region, and underlying it is focus on attentions to the life cycle, the gender and age dimensions of the population, and the important aspect of nutrition literacy. And the components are, yes, having a nutrition-sensitive farming systems design, the component of genetic garden of biofortified plants that Professor Swaminathan spoke about for conservation, education, and for providing the necessary planting material for a nutrition-sensitive farming system, and for the nutrition, addressing the nutrition awareness and literacy component, having community-level champions, the hunger fighters who will take forward the movement and make it happen on the ground. So we are working in a set of villages in 2 different ecologically different regions in India, in Vidarbha in Maharashtra, in Wardha district, and in Koraput district of Orissa. And these are again, like Wardha is characterized by commercial agriculture dominated by cotton, soybean during Kharif. They're largely, both are rain-fed agriculture regions. Kharif is the main crop. In Koraput, it's more subsistence agriculture with the average landholding size being less than an acre. The starting point for the farming system's approach to nutrition is to understand the nutrition situation and the existing agriculture and the asset resource base, natural resource base. To understand this existing disconnect, like what are the resources available, what is the nutrition status, and then working with the community, discussing with them as to this is the problem of undernutrition prevalent in your population, and how do we address it based on, like, these are the crops you're currently growing, this is how your dietary pattern is, but what can be done with this available resource base to address the problem. We started this, our initiative in 2013, and this is how the trajectory has progressed in terms of having a detailed baseline survey to understand the existing situation, undertaking on-farm demonstrations and trials along in participation with the farm households, evaluating them jointly, and then designing the farming systems approach. Just to briefly highlight as to what the existing ground situation is, in both locations, overall high levels of undernutrition was found, high levels of anemia. Figures that were given by both Professor Swaminathan and Dr. Rukmani for the national level, the same we find at the micro level in these villages that we are working in. And the diets of the people that we found is largely cereal dominated, and the consumption of all the other food groups is less than the recommended levels. And there is the problem of protein energy deficiency, the problem of micronutrient deficiency, as well as overall undernutrition. In terms of agriculture, agriculture is the base of their livelihood. The majority are small and marginal farmers. They are also landless. There are also the challenges of climate, erratic climate, the improved varieties of seeds not being available, outdated agronomic practices being adopted, lack of crop diversification, problems of soil fertility. So with this base, going forward with the discussing with the community on what is the approach that we should have in designing a nutrition-sensitive farming system. And a very important point to ensure sustainable and long-term adoption is for them to actually see that what is being recommended is something which will be beneficial and for them to see. So just to share an example, in case of millets, finger millets being a nutrient-dense variety, a crop that is traditionally grown and consumed by the population in Koraput. But we found that they were sourcing it largely from the market. So we are now working with them to increase the availability of finger millets. So just an improved variety of finger millets along with improved cultivation practices, we were able to demonstrate increased availability of nutrition, and also the practices adopted led to economic benefit. So, and these results, when they are shared with the community, it leads to ease of uptake. And together in this process, the nutrition-sensitive farming system comprising the crop, livestock, nutrition garden package has taken shape in both these areas. And the focus is on increasing the area and number of farmers cultivating nutrient-dense crops, millets and pulses. So in Wardha, it's sorghum and PG&P in Kharif, and wheat and chickpea in Rabi. Rabi area, like I said, would be very small. They're largely Kharif-dominated areas. But like sorghum in Kharif used to be cultivated earlier, but the area has largely come down and replaced by cotton and soybean. But trying to bring back sorghum so that they at least have enough for their home consumption. And PG&P, they grow as an intercrop with cotton, like 6 rows of cotton and 2 rows of PG&P. But there are also farmers now who are coming forward to try and do sole cropping of PG&P, and in view of both for household use as well as growing for the market. In Koraput, it's finger millet and pulses like black gram, green gram, an intercrop of maize and PG&P. Orange flesh sweet potato, Professor Swaminathan also already spoke about it, as being rich in beta-carotene and a precursor for addressing the vitamin A component. And where they are the landless, how do you address their how does one address their nutritional needs? So looking at poultry as an option in Wardha, and in Koraput, what they decided on was fishery. And across the board, nutrition garden of fruits and vegetables, like to grow identify and grow fruits and vegetables which are nutrient dense in your homestead land, and if homestead land is not available, grow wherever it's available. So this is the kind of model that has taken shape in terms of the different aspects: crop intervention, animal husbandry, and nutrition garden, and nutrition awareness being an overlying ingredient across all interventions. The need to understand why this is being recommended and to adopt it. And just to give you, again, an example, so from where we have started, we started with a small number of farmers, but over the last year, it's been now expanded from, say, 5 villages in Wardha to 29 villages. The acreage and under both pulses and sorghum has increased, and similarly in Koraput, it's expanded from 7 villages to 21 villages, and so that's how the upscaling is going on. And in parallel, liaising with the district administration, with government officials to make for the necessary support systems to come in place to facilitate its uptake in, to enlarge the area. The nutrition garden component, again, started by talking to them about, like, they're all fruits and vegetables the people are aware of, but to emphasizing that it's necessary that you have at least one each of these plants in your homestead land, a lemon, the moringa, the papaya, developing a seasonal calendar of vegetables, rich in micronutrients, rich in beta-carotene, and different models are being tried out: household nutrition gardens, community-level nutrition garden, schools and ICDS centers, because there's the midday meal that's cooked in schools. So if there is a nutrition garden that can supply readily to the midday meal. And so it depends, like in many cases, if the homestead land is not available, or during Kharif, for instance, the farmers say, we spend most of our land, most of our time on the farm, so we would rather grow there. But the essential aspect is that they should grow and consume these vegetables and fruits, and impressing on them the importance of including this in their daily diet and bringing about dietary diversity. And a process of monitoring is on through collecting this information of the number of plants grown, the harvest, and the home consumption. And again, I mentioned the school nutrition gardens. The genetic garden of biofortified plants, Professor Swaminathan has already spoken about it. And like he said, to just re-emphasize, it's an educational tool to make farm families aware of the plants that should form a component of this farming systems design, to overcome deficiencies of specific micronutrients, to help farm men and women choose the plants that can help the remedy specific nutrition deficiencies, and also the planting material should be available. And there are a lot of locally grown plants, there could be wild plants as well, which are rich in these micronutrients. And there are people, the elderly people in the farms, in these villages who have this indigenous knowledge, so taking that also into account. And this is something we are in the process of developing in the villages where we are working in. Like this is one example in Haiti village in Wardha. So it's like Professor Swaminathan said, at the entrance there should be this board on what the garden, the purpose of the garden, and all the plants should have the labels with the nutritive value of, and what deficiency it can help address, and also planting material to be made available for whoever comes there to learn about it and to take it forward. The other very important component, like I already mentioned, is nutrition awareness as being an integral part of the entire approach. And this has to be at multiple levels. So like right from the time we started this initiative, talking to farm men and women about having this nutrition focus in the entire approach. So at the household level, school, the institutional level, school children, panchayats, the school teachers, so different activities being taken up. And as a more intensive and focused approach for sustainability, again, what Professor Swaminathan's already elucidated, creating a cadre at the community level, at the village level, the community hunger fighters, who would need to have this understanding of all the different components: balanced diet, the need for dietary diversity, the link between their primary source of livelihood and nutrition for a healthy life, the aspects of seasonality and seasonal foods, that also, how the diet would change based on that. And so these people have been identified by the villagers, again in a participatory process, taking into account aspects of gender, age, so both male and female. We've been working on having residential workshops, and then these community resource persons, the hunger fighters, take it down to the village level, and we follow up with them in how this kind of spills over. They're talking to more families, conducting training programs at the village level with these community nutrition champions as the trainers. And the aspect of knowledge of entitlements is a very important issue, which both Professor Swaminathan and Rukmini also mentioned. So this is the block development officer talking to the village community members, the trainees at our workshop, about the entitlements. Like, they need to know what the Food Security Act entitles them to. There are numerous schemes for agriculture, irrigation, etc. Water scarcity is a major issue in these villages. But how to access these schemes, those are issues people are not at the ground level are not aware of. And we've even found that even the improved varieties of seeds are not available at the village level. So to create this link and making the community hunger fighters the conduits for taking it down to the village level. And so that's how this program is progressing and taking shape, and where we are in terms of moving forward in terms of increasing the area and availability of nutrient-dense crops to demonstrate better dietary diversity at the end of the program, based on what we started with a baseline, a better understanding of nutrition-sensitive agriculture, and more number of farmers practicing it and talking about it, and bringing in the measures for sustainability, which is where the linkage with the government programs is very important. The channels for seed, ensuring seed availability, could be community managed, like the food grain banks that Rukmini mentioned, community level seed banks, which would work in tribal pockets like Orissa, but also to make the channel, linking them up for access to the improved varieties of seeds. And the marketing channels, that's another challenge to work on. So that's the package where we are, and which is being tried out right now in two small pockets. And through liaison, through stakeholder consultations, we are at the stage of talking to the district administration, the state administration, for greater uptake and upscaling in these two states, but needs to be tried out in different agroecological, agroclimatic regions as well, because to have, this is the broad approach, but it would have to be adapted to different agroclimatic regions, and this is where the university system could play a major role. For instance, in the case of the genetic garden, we now have a MOU with the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. Professor Ramaswamy unfortunately could not be here today, but we are developing a model genetic garden on the TNAU campus to demonstrate this and generate greater awareness about this. But we need to have several more models of this kind for it to become a national movement, and for agriculture to get this nutrition focus. Like the Green Revolution led to increased productivity. We need to have the nutrition focus also come into agriculture to help us to enable India to address the problem of malnutrition and reach the SDG 2 of ending hunger and nutrition insecurity in our country. So that I would leave you with that thought. We have a small film on the Community Hunger Fighters initiative, which will be played at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhavani, for your